So I got my copy of The Elder on cassette, no less, for Christmas 1983, along with Kiss's Creatures of the Night and David Bowie's The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust, also on cassette. Now, I spent a huge chunk of that Christmas break lying on my bedroom floor listening to The Elder and reading through my newly acquired Dungeon Master's Guide and Monster Manual. It was a good Christmas that year. And because it was such a good Christmas break, The Elder imprinted hard on my junior high psyche. So for years, I found myself at odds with other Kiss fans simply because I loved this album and nobody else I knew would even acknowledge that it existed. But now, over 40 years later, something seems to have changed, and I guess everyone's rethought this album because I'm amazed at the number of people who now claim to love The Elder. So let's talk about it. Stick around. So, like my Kiss debut album video, and you can catch it right here, this isn't an unboxing. In fact, you can see me checking The Elder out in the outtake at the end of that video. But I still want to approach this as if it were a real unboxing, and I'd like to share my thoughts because this is my first ever vinyl copy of The Elder, and I'd be lying if I told you I'm not excited. So let's pretend, okay? So here it is. We all know the cover image. Here's the back cover with all of the album credits, and on the inside, here's the gatefold with the photo of the meeting table of the Council of the Elder. And I love this packaging. I just want to hold it and look at it while I'm listening to the record. Okay, so what's on the inside? Okay, here is the lyric sheet. It's kind of hard to tell in this light. It's also a record sleeve. And of course, here's the vinyl itself with a crazy side one label image of the hand from the front cover. Now, here's a question. Is this how it was on the original pressings, or is this something done especially for this pressing? Please let me know because I'm curious. And like my copy of the debut, this is a 180 gram audiophile pressing, and man, it's heavy compared to my old Kiss vinyl from the 70s and the 80s. I actually have not listened to it yet, but I will as soon as I'm done shooting. Now, I really enjoy the fact that Kiss took a chance doing a concept album, which tells the tale of finding and training an unassuming youth into becoming the prophesied champion. It's kind of like the movie Dragon Slayer, which was released about 6 months earlier. And if you've never seen Dragon Slayer, you need to see it as soon as possible. It was one of my favorite movies at the time, and it still stands up both visually and story-wise. And of course, this all went hand in hand with my Dungeons and Dragons reading at the time. So of course, I was all in. And I love every song on this record, but especially the ones which sound like, well, Kiss tunes. The Oath, Mr. Blackwell, and I. Now, I have special affection for the more progressive side of the album. The moody Just a Boy, the majestic Under the Rose, the epic and frantic Escape from the Island, and of course, the Ace Frehley showpiece, Dark Light. And Dark Light's always been my favorite tune on The Elder, simply because I'm an Ace freak. And here, he both sings and plays. And man, that solo is monumental. It's definitely the final installment in Ace's holy trinity of epic guitar solos, including Shock Me from Love Gun, Rocket Ride from Alive 2, and then, of course, Dark Light. Now, for me, listening to The Elder has always been an event, and I'll only ever start listening to it if I know I'll be able to finish it in a single setting. So I'm pretty sure some of the resurgence of interest in this album is the fact that it's the least documented period of the band's career. Other than a few magazine covers, posters, and TV spots, we didn't really get to see the new costumes or the new stage setup, and that's a shame because I always thought the Elder outfits looked great, even Paul's stupid purple headband, and I never once heard any of these songs on the radio. And the only TV appearances I remember were the Jerry Lewis telethon showing World Without Heroes as I was eating Cheerios on Labor Day morning. A lip-syncing appearance on, I believe it was Solid Gold. And then, of course, there was the Fridays appearance. So for those of you who don't know, after the Not Ready for Primetime players left Saturday Night Live, the show reeked. I mean, it just reeked for several years. And at our house, my dad and I gave up on SNL and switched our allegiance to ABC's Fridays. Now, if you don't know about Fridays, check some episodes out. It was pretty edgy. The Jamaican chef sketches were always my favorite. Do we bake it? No, 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 no. Do we boil it? No, 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 no. Do we smoke it? Yeah, 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 yeah. Great stuff. Anyway, this was back before we knew in advance who the guests would be on any given week. So when we tuned in that week, there was Kiss, and they played 3 songs, The Oath, World Without Heroes, and I. And it was all I could think about for weeks. I loved their streamlined, stripped-down costumes, and maybe it was the fact that they were playing on a small stage in a TV studio, but they seemed to play with a savage intensity I hadn't seen since the HBO concert back in 1978. And for me, this performance was the holy grail. So when Kissology 2 came out, I watched the Friday's performance over and over. And then I noticed something really special. So let me give you a little bit of background. So in the early 90s, I studied classical guitar at the University of Miami. And as a poor student, I had to work on the weekends in order to pay Metro Rail fare and, well, eat. So my roommate and I worked for a company called Demand Assistance Corps, and we provided event logistics, gate security, cash security, and beer vending operations for festivals, concerts, corporate events, and so forth. My roommate and I generally set up and ran the central beer vending operation, which included setting up the vendors, trays, inventory control, and squaring our figures up with our cashiers. And because we were dealing with large amounts of cash, we worked closely with the head of our security division, Mr. Big John Hart. Now, if that name sounds familiar to any of you, it's because he was Kiss's road manager for years, and he'd tell me Kiss road stories to keep me entertained during any lulls in our workday. So that was really cool. But it gets even cooler. On November 1st, 1992, I was working staff and vendor gate security overnight for an event in South Beach. I brought a stack of Micronauts comic books and my Walkman to keep myself entertained and awake for my 12-hour shift. So about 10:30 or 11 o'clock, Big John comes by the gate and asks, "Dave, what you listening to?" So I took my headphones off and I told him Love Gun. And he said, "Grab the tape, come with me." So he leads me across the parking lot to a line of parked semi-trailers and steers me between 2 of them where we approached a tall man in the shadows. I then heard him say, "Gene, this is my friend Dave. He's a big fan." And then he looks at me and says, "Hey, show him what's in your hand." So I handed Gene, and I hope you do realize this is Gene Simmons I'm talking about, right? So I hand Gene my Love Gun tape, and he looks at the tape, and he looks at me, and he says, "You've got good taste." And for the next 7 to 10 minutes, we talked about playing guitar, comic books, our favorite bands, nerdy stuff. I also briefly got to say hi to Paul, but because I was on the clock, I had to get back to my post pretty quickly. So why did I get to randomly meet Gene and Paul at a security gig in Miami? Well, they had played a Halloween show at the Miami Arena the night before, and they stayed in town an extra day so they could come out and see their old buddy John. Now, what does this have to do with Kiss's Elder performances on Fridays? Well, in the World Without Heroes performance, there's a lengthy close-up of the right side of Gene's face. And if you look right past Gene, off stage in the wings, stands a tall, burly, mustachioed man in a Western shirt and blue jeans. And that's my old beer gig buddy / co-worker / supervisor, John Hart. So, as you can plainly see, my connection to the Elder is deep and multifaceted. And now with my vinyl reissue, I can reminisce and relive a bit of that amazing Christmas break. In fact, I already have my Dungeon Master's Guide ready to go, and I've got a nice spot on the carpet right there already picked out. So I'm going to spin some vinyl and see if I can recreate one of my favorite junior high memories. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like what I do. Hit the notification bell so you'll always know when a new episode drops, and feel free to leave comments or any suggestions for any topics you might like to see in some future videos. Also, check out my other channel, Live from the Stairwell, and check out some 100% live unplugged performances from, you guessed it, my back stairwell. I haven't done anything recently simply because we've got a leak and we've got water dripping down in the stairwell, so hopefully some will be coming a little later this summer. Also, keep your eyes open for String 'em Up shorts where I address various good guitaring ideas in under a minute. My name's Dave Holland, and thanks for watching String 'em Up. Have fun, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.